Hey there, guys. We're going to be going to the final Dark Visions boss, Dark Phoenix. This is a Reaper, and Global has adjusted the fight to where it now hits less times with its AoE, which basically means Riku will counter less than we expected, so she might not be the best clear here. I don't know for sure, but she's definitely be weaker than we expected at least. So this is the party we're going to use. Now, my clear is not using a tank, so we are going to rely on some RNG on this clear. The boss will use either Wing Buffet, which is AoE physical, Chaotic Surge, which is AoE magic, or neither on most turns. We don't want the boss to use Chaotic Surge on turn 2 or 3, and otherwise it'll mess up my clear. But turn 1 it's okay. So turn 1, what we're going to do with Vaan, we're going to Mirage the party, and then we're going to use My Brother's Gone. We're going to use Ibarra to bar Darkja for the mitigation. We'll just guard Lena, Dwayne, and Rain, and we will stealth Zaan to hide him. Now, if the boss uses Chaotic Surge, it'll deal a little bit of damage on turn 1. It won't fail the mission. He did Wing Buffet. That's the physical attack. We're miraging that. No damage on turn 1. Great. Now, we did get completely imperiled and dispelled on turn 1. We lost all our buffs. So, to deal with that, Lena will dual cast, and we'll just use a whatever, and then Dispelga. So we're going to do that, and we're going to send it back to our own party to get rid of all our debuffs. You could also use something like Bushido Freedom on your own team, but that'll deal a little bit of damage. But this is fine, you're doing it this way. Okay, now that we've lost all the imperils, we're going to start setting up. So Flaring Rain will go to the shift form, and we'll do his shifted LB to put up the the regular sword imperil and stack him up. Ibarra will do the base form LB. Don't chain these because we don't want the boss to push the 70% threshold. You got to stay above 70%. So Dwayne will now do Fire Imbue, Blood Shield, and Arcane Mantle. That's a 100 fire resist buff. And Ibarra put up a 250 Reaper buff to herself. It's only a physical version though, so if we're using, like, for example, Shantoto or something, this won't help. But we're going to steal that physical killer off of Ibarra with Zaan, using critical on Ibarra. We're going to elemental on Dwayne for that fire resist buff he applied, and then share all this to the party. And then Vaan is going to mirage the party again. So here's the RNG. If the boss uses Chaotic Surge on this turn, we're going to take so much damage. We are not mitigating whatsoever. So if the boss does Chaotic Surge, we retreat and come back in. If he does Wing Buffet, we're fine. If he does neither, we're fine. There's a Wing Buffet. Okay, physical attack. Perfect. No damage taken. Now we're going to be killing on turn 4, by the way. So we're going to start getting ready for killing next turn. First of all, Lena will put up Bar Blazega from an Esper. That's an 80% ice resist buff, because we are getting an ice attack this turn. Ibarra is going to do Darkness Imbue to herself, Wish of Vengeance for the buff for the party, and Sukiyo as the last action to amplify herself. Rain is going to do 150 amp. We're going to Infarega the party, including Ibarra. And then we're going to do Armor Grant Me Power. Dwayne will just do his 150 Amplify. Now the boss on this turn has a fire resist buff from last turn. So to get rid of that, Zaan will Black Mirror. That is a perfect dispel, which gets rid of that buff. And now Vaan is going to mirage the party again. So on turn 3, once again, we don't have mitigation. If the boss does Chaotic Surge on turn 3, we retreat and come back in because we take just too much damage. It's RNG if the boss does or doesn't, so please no Chaotic Surge. Oh, he did Chaotic Surge. We took, too much damage. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run that fight again. I will see you in a moment when the boss doesn't use Chaotic Surge on turn 2 or 3. Alright guys, we're going to see if turn 3 the boss doesn't use a Surge. So please no Surge. Wing Buffet is fine. Wing Buffet. There we go. There's a no Surge run. Okay, took a few tries. It took like 6 tries. So Surge will happen pretty often, but once you eventually get to turn 4 without having a Surge on turn 2 or 3, we're good to continue. So now we're going to use Vaughn's SLB for the bigger break and bigger imperil. So now we can see that from the party thing, the boss is at 88 spirit, 89 defense break. We're at 550 killer on everyone and 40% weapon imperil on everyone. So we're going to shift at LB Ibarra. We're going to shift at LB Rain. We're going to Atonement and Absolution Dwayne. Lena's going to go to the base form and use the base form LB. This is quad Chaos Wave Awakened frames, and they're slightly offset. And Zahn will quad from an Esper Farega, the Phoenix Esper. Okay, so we're going to send Zahn and Lena first. They're going to put up the field for the fire damage. Then we're going to send the rest of the party. If we chain this perfectly, it'll be a 112 count chain. If the chain breaks, I'm going to reset the app and try again. So here we go. Let's send these first. Wait just a minute. Let the chain build. Then we send the rest, and we hope that the chain doesn't break. 112, and looks good. Okay, there's our clear. And we'll see what kind of damage we did. So there's a 100 count chain, no damage taken score, turn 4. We've got 16.2 billion damage. So it seems like the global has increased the stats on this boss as well from the JP server. In the JP server, we kind of expected the boss to be squishier, but I don't know until we see a data mine. But there we go. So new record, and we can see some damage breakdown. So Flaring Rain, big boy damage here. Dwayne, 5.1, pretty good. Ibarra, unfortunately, is off element here. We didn't have good Dark Imperils. We had to mix her element with a low fire amplify. So, while Rain and Dwayne are at 190% amplify with Lena, Ibarra was at 35 plus 40 is 75 plus 150 is 225 divided by 2, so about 112 amplify versus 190. So they're also a much smaller Dark Imperil. The boss was at grand total 185 Fire Imperil and 135 Dark Imperil. But we needed Ibarra for our killer buff. And then Lena, small damage. I couldn't really fit Lena's the Yuna STMR buff, which would have doubled Lena's damage, but honestly, she's just here for the field. And there we go. So we're at 182. Pretty decent. I don't know how many of those above me are cheaters. I'm sure some are, but some probably are not. Out of curiosity, let's just look real quick at the current list. So some of these people at the oh my god, global, come on. Like rank 63 guy with a level 1 Rain. I mean, come on. Oh my god, so many cheaters. I don't know where the legitimate scores begin, but yeah, I'm somewhere around here, like 182, so there we go. Anyway, I'll show you my team. And that was my first clear. So here is the party. As far as Espers go, Zahn needs to be on an Esper that enables Chaos Wave Awakened fire frames. So Phoenix is a good option. Other than that, Esper is whatever you want for bulk. Now we do need the party to be in the base, whatever form they're on in turn 1. They need 100 fire resist unbuffed on turn 1. You want immunity to paralyze and confusion as well. And then you need at least 20 ice resist because we're using an 80 ice resist buff. So here is Dwayne's gear. There it is. And there's his setup. And he's at maxed Reaper Killer. We don't use his LB. Flaring Rain is at 100 fire, 20 or better ice. Base form. Give the base forms, or whatever their non-DPS form is, as much bulk as you can so that if the boss uses Chaotic Surge on turn 1, you don't take too much damage. And there's his setup. That's the base form. This is the damage form. Shift form, he's at 16.8 attack power. There it is. And he's got some fire and some ice resist. And then he is, of course, maxed on Reaper Killer. Ibarra in the base form, immunities, etc. There we go. And then there's her, just bulk. Bulk in the base form. Shift form is LB damage versus the stuff. 20 or better ice, 20 or better fire. There we go. There's her setup, and she's maxed on everything. Maxed LB, maxed Reaper. Lena in the shift form is dual cast and Judgment Staff to get rid of the Imperils. And again, you could just, her attack power is garbage, 264 attack power. I probably should have just very simply giving her Bushido freedom and targeted the party that way. I just, have it. Anyway, shift form, there we go. And then bulk. Base form is technically geared for damage with a sword. Her damage is absolutely terrible. Even though we did chain it, low amplify. We didn't do things like unit ST marker, we couldn't fit it. But she's the field, and the field is pretty helpful. I don't know if the field is actually needed, though. Maybe there's a better damage dealer. If you have Genesis, I would definitely change it around. And then Zahn is just, bulk, etc. He never actually takes damage because we hide on turn 1, and then on turn 2 or 3, if the boss does Chaotic Surge, we retreat anyway. Irene's Ring, and on an Esper for the Chaos Wave Awakened. Other than that, whatever. The boss, no one needs to be a provoker because no one actually takes single target damage. And then Vaughn, honestly, literally whatever, it just, immunities and some resistance, and then there it is. We didn't actually use him to dispel, so there it is. There's my clear. Turn chart to be in the comments, and I'll do other clears later. See you in a bit.